Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn Live. We have a fun topic for all of you since hormones are on the agenda and everyone is talking about it. Welcome. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Miss Carissa, how was your weekend?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful here in New York. On Saturday, anyway. That was
We've got a
beautiful.
heat wave coming, right? It's hotter in New York.
It's pretty hot. It's dense outside, pretty sticky and heavy. So get lots of water.
Yeah, those of you who are watching, give us a shout out and say hello. Let us know that you're here and what's happening. So, all right, let's dive right in. So, okay, let's be honest. Have you ever caught yourself like, I just ate, why am I hungry again?
Mhm.
Or you're like, my cravings, they have a mind of my own. I'm always craving. Or maybe you feel like you're doing everything right, but you're still gaining weight. And you guys, that's what we're going to talking about today. Because if that sounds familiar, then I want you to really know something. Okay. Number one, I know a lot of women blame themselves on willpower, right? Like, I just don't have the willpower. And then they beat themselves up and they go down this like spiral in their minds. But the truth is, you're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not failing. Things go beyond just that willpower or discipline. So for many women, they're dealing with a real biological issue when these things are happening, right? And probably you probably haven't heard about them before, or maybe you have, but there are two very little known hormones. They're not talked about, like estrogen and insulin and cortisol and all of that. And those two hormones that control your appetite, your cravings, your weight, and your energy levels too, right? Those hormones are called leptin and ghrelin. Okay. And we're going to talk about them today because when they're out of balance, right, our whole system gets thrown off. And then when other hormones are out of balance, they throw those hormones out of balance. And now we've got like this web of stuff that's happening. So you might be eating clean, you might be fasting, maybe you're exercising, and like you're still not losing weight. That can be a sign that those two hormones, leptin and ghrelin, are actually out of sync. And if we underestimate how they actually work, right, we end up in this cycle of frustration and stuff. So when we understand how they work, it's like unlocking with the master key to your metabolism. So that's what I want to talk about today. And Carissa, I mean, we have people who are going through issues with leptin and ghrelin all the time, right?
Yeah, I have had clients tell me numerous times, like, I feel hungry all the time, or I never know when I'm full. And
Yeah.
like you just said, like, it's not really a willpower issue. And I think, too, what's important to understand is that's where like the emotional layer comes in too, because when ghrelin's high and the leptin's low, your body is in like that constant state of like, just feed me now, like, and so you're reaching for food. But I think what's actually happening is your body really just wants safety. And like when the nervous system is dysregulated and you've had years, like you said, of like dieting or emotional suppression or blood sugar crashes, like we talked about last week, those hormones don't trust the pattern anymore,
Yes.
So we have to work on rhythm, not
Yes.
restriction.
Yeah. Well, let's before we even get into rhythm, let's talk about what leptin and ghrelin actually are. And the way I like to, or the analogy that I like to use, is they're like the thermostat and the smoke alarm that are on your metabolism. So when we talk about leptin, like Carissa, like you just said, leptin is the I'm full signal. It's the one that tells your body that it's full. And it's made by your fat cells, right? And its job is to say to your brain, hey, we're good. We've had enough. You can stop eating now. Okay. And you want to think of leptin like your almost like your gas tank sensor in the car. When it's working, your body knows when to stop fueling. But when it's resistant, right? And you may have heard the term leptin resistant, right? Like insulin resistant. When you're leptin resistant, what happens is your body can have plenty of fuel, but your brain can't hear the signal or the message that it's full. So what happens is you keep eating, right? And it's not because you're weak or you're undisciplined. It's more so because your brain actually thinks that you're still running on empty. Okay. So that's the one side. On the other side, we have the ghrelin. Okay. And the ghrelin is the hormone that's saying, I'm hungry. Okay. Now, if the if the hormone is made in your stomach, right? The ghrelin is made in your stomach. Its job is to tell the brain, I'm hungry, right? Feed me now. So leptin says, I'm full. Ghrelin says, I'm hungry. Got it? So the way I like to remember it is full ends with L, like leptin, and ghrelin. Hungry starts with a G, and then H is hungry. So G and H. So if you're confused about the two, that's one way that you can easily remember it. Sometimes I need these little memory hacks, right? So leptin is made in your fat cells. Ghrelin is coming from your stomach. Okay. And ghrelin is also the other way I remember it. It's like the little gremlin.
That's how I think of it.
Yeah. Gremlin. It's because when it starts to grow and it's out of balance, when you're stressed out or you're sleep deprived or you're skipping meals, for those of you who think eating less is the way to weight loss, right? Or if you're eating sugar and then having that crash, then your little ghrelin is screaming. So ghrelin normally, naturally, when you're hungry, like before a meal, it rises. It's supposed to do that. It's sending the signal that it's time to eat. And you guys, this is another reason why like having a schedule with your food is so important, is to keep these hormones in balance. But as we go through Lunch and Learn, we'll get to some solutions for you, as we always do. So what happens is in today's world, right, we're finding that if ghrelin's at a balance, it stays elevated all the time. And when ghrelin is high, then, the cravings, they feel like out of control. And for some people, ghrelin gets high at night. Right. So those who are like, I have to eat something at night. I have to eat something at night. And Carissa and I are saying, don't eat late, don't eat late, don't eat before bed. And some women are like, but I have to eat something. I have to eat something. So now imagine this. So leptin is trying to say, I'm full, right? But your brain isn't listening. And the ghrelin over here is screaming, I'm starving, even if you just ate. So can you see that this is like, it's a hormone chaos loop that so many people are stuck in. And it's especially heightened during those perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal years. Okay. So here comes the issue. Now, imagine that if your leptin and your ghrelin, right, would be like the conductor and the drummer. If they're out of sync and they're offbeat, the whole performance it collapses, just like any other hormones in your body, right? And that's when the metabolism starts to go astray. Okay. And the worst part is, the truth is most doctors, they're never going to test you for leptin, or they're never going to ask you about ghrelin. They're just going to tell you to do what? What's the common thing that we're told? Eat less and move more. Okay. But Carissa, how does the eat less and move more work?
It adds more stress on the body.
Yeah. And people beat themselves up.
Yeah.
So you guys, if the signaling system is broken, right, that advice is, it's like yelling at the thermostat when the wire is cut and nothing's going to change. So here we are now stuck in this cycle. So I think we've got to take a step back and think about how the cycle actually gets broken, right? And then how do we actually reset the cycle naturally? And I think that's the most important piece, right? Because if you've got the hunger, you've got the fullness, okay, and when those are out of sync, it's not like they're lazy by themselves. It's really that they've been hijacked, and we're hijacking them every single day. Okay. So let's go with the leptin side of things. Okay. That's the one that says that you're full. And I'm going to keep repeating myself to help drill it in. But so when we're leptin resistance, again, that's when the brain stops listening. Okay. And when your body starts producing lots and lots of leptin, right? And that's increased fat stores contribute to that. And your brain is numb to the signal, excuse me. How do we get here? Right? So how do we get here? So we got here with chronic inflammation, with our diets, you guys, processed foods. I mean, that high fructose corn syrup, which they call corn sugar now. But when we're eating a lot of processed foods and seed oils, and we're not sleeping, and we're constantly snacking, right? So too much insulin can occur when we're constantly snacking throughout the day, or we're having blood sugar spikes. So Carissa and I, we talk about, managing those blood sugar spikes, going for a walk after you eat, maybe just do 5 squats after you eat, just to kind of help to manage that. But so leptin is saying, it's supposed to say we're good, no more food, please, right? But if your brain is inflamed, if it's overwhelmed, if it can't hear the messages, then we just keep eating, right? Mm-hmm. And then that cycle continues to repeat itself. Okay, so now we're just like, there's no information coming in for us to stop. Now, what happens is if we got the little gremlin ghrelin over here, okay, this is the one that loves chaos. It also thrives with stress. Anybody? Skipping meals, blood sugar crashes, poor sleep, overtraining, you guys. So if you are over exercising or extreme dieting, okay, then you're going to end up with those issues related to ghrelin. So if you skip breakfast, if you run on coffee all day, and then you get home and you're binging all night, then we have a problem, right? Or if you're stressed all day because of work, the kids, your family, whatever else is going on, and then you get to the point and you're like, that stress is like, give me some sugar, and you're eating sugar during the day, and then all of a sudden you're waking up in the middle of the night because cortisol and stuff is in balance. Well, guys, we're in like a hormone hijack situation. So I don't know if we ever talked about it, Carissa, but there is research that shows that even just one night of bad sleep can cause the ghrelin to go up and the leptin to go down. So what does that mean? So you sacrificed your sleep to scroll social media, right? Or to do some kind of a project or to watch TV or something like that. And as a result, now the next day, you're going to feel hungrier and you're going to be less satisfied. Okay. So this is why willpower doesn't work, because your biology is going to win over willpower all the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what we've got to do is change that. And think about, you guys, we haven't even talked about, the environment that we're living in, the toxins in our environment that also are disrupting our hormones, the restrictive dieting, all of these things are what create the perfect storm for leptin and ghrelin. So now we're constantly hungry. We're having intense cravings, usually for sugar or carbs, right? And now all of a sudden we're fat, we're storing fat around that belly area, and our energy is low. So we're not wanting to exercise, or our motivation is low. And we're just like feeling like we're fighting our body every single day. I mean, you guys who are watching, type in the chat if this is making sense for you, if any of this resonates with you. I mean, what are your thoughts, Carissa?
I mean, this is what I see with so many women, right? We're not lazy. We're not weak. I love how you keep pointing that out. And we're definitely not broken, right? Yes. We're in the middle of, I love you also, the hormonal hijack, right? Yeah. We're trying to function in a world that keeps like kind of triggering it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like your body's like SOS. Because when you just talked about like when we get a bad night's sleep and we wake up hungry, that's me. And I especially crave sugar. Mm-hmm. And then I'm just like in that loop of like being exhausted and then wired and kind of doing that. Or if you're not eating early enough in the day and then you're starving at night, like you talked about, like skipping breakfast and just running on coffee, or when we're stressed from like all angles, work, family life, that's when my body too is like sugar, and not because I'm weak, but because that's what, cortisol and the ghrelin are demanding.
Yes.
And yeah, like you said, add in that poor sleep, toxins, and extreme dieting, which a lot of us women tend to do, right?
Yes.
When we're off balance, we kind of take it to the extreme,
Yes.
instead of kind of just pulling back a little bit and giving our body safety, because that's really what our body wants. And I really want to highlight, because I love that you said, like, that's why willpower doesn't work. Your biology always wins.
Yes.
And I just think that's so important, because then we can learn to, like, instead of fighting our body, we have to partner with it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the key, right? So the question is, how do we actually reset our leptin and ghrelin and do it in a way that's natural, right? Because, we're not looking for quick fixes. We're not looking for band-aids. We're not looking for, dangerous or toxic chemicals or things like that, pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
We can actually use very simple science-backed shifts. You can look in the scientific literature for these things and create real results for them. Okay. So let's take a step back, right? So if we're going to reset leptin and ghrelin, okay, so that finally our body can start working with us, not against us, then we have to think about, like you said, it's that balance and that alignment. So it really is about realigning your, with your biology and the way your biology is designed to function. So again, all of you who are familiar with the True Wellness Framework, remember that R is reconnect and rebalance, and it's such a pivotal thing, because sometimes we don't need all these crazy interventions or all these crazy tests. We just need to get realigned, rebalanced, and reconnected with our body's own natural rhythms. Okay. So there's a couple of key things. So blood sugar being number one. So if leptin is your I'm full signal, right? And ghrelin is your I'm hungry gremlin, then blood sugar is actually the conductor that keeps those guys in rhythm. So if your blood sugar is spiking and crashing all day long, it throws everything out of tune. We even talked about cortisol, and all that. If you haven't seen last week's Lunch and Learn Live on hormones, go make sure that you check out last week's Lunch and Learn Live. So how do we manage blood sugar? We've gone through this. So eating your protein and your fats at every meal, especially breakfast, not engaging in sugar, right? If you're having, I don't think all carbs are bad, you guys. They're, sure, Cocoa Puffs or, whatever, I'm thinking cereals, because I just said breakfast. Those things are bad. But like quinoa or brown rice or beans or things like that, those are not bad. But you do want to make sure that you've got protein and you've got fat mixed along with that to go ahead and modulate the body's blood sugar response, right? We've always said, and I love the work of the glucose goddess, because I think she's spot on, and this, everything that she has in her list is backed by the research. But starting every meal with a lot of fiber. Think about vegetables, you guys. Eat your vegetables first, your protein and your fat next, and then have your brown rice if you're looking at your plate. Okay. And think about eating real whole foods, because those real whole foods take time for your body to break down. And that is going to reduce that spiking. And of course, you guys, if your body doesn't have a schedule, like you're skipping meals here and there, you're burning yourself out. So you do want to get into a pattern. You want to think about your blood sugar like a roller coaster, right? The more ups and downs it is, the louder the ghrelin screams, right? The more time you go down the roller coaster, the more you scream. So, and if ghrelin is screaming, actually, this is ghrelin over here, right? If ghrelin is screaming, then leptin cannot be heard. So you've got to stabilize that ride. Okay. And your hunger hormones then actually begin to calm down. So pay attention to your blood sugar there. Number two, like we said before, is sleep. Sleep is critical. You guys, I always tell everybody your body heals best between 10 and 2. This is when your hormones do their repair work. If you're staying up to 12 o'clock, 11, even 11 o'clock, right, then you're impacting your hormonal cycles. So get to bed by 10. Okay, so your body has that time. Get to bed by 9:30. So you're like out like a light by 10. I know it's hard. Listen, I live the same life. I don't know about you, Carissa, but I get
Yeah.
it. You know,
Hmm.
I know one thing I can always do is reduce screen time, right? No scrolling, no looking, no none, like just let that go because your body's so much more important, right? And make sure that you've had, I don't want you to eat right before you go to bed, but make sure that you've had a nice, good, satiating meal with dinner so that it does sustain you over the long term, right? Because that's important. What else? What else you got for sleep, Carissa?
Well, I do want to touch on because I do love that you brought up the true wellness approach
Mhm.
because I think it's so important for everyone to hear. Like, it's not about chasing the next trend, which can
Yes.
be really hard, especially when we're on social media all the time and we're like, oh, look at that. Oh, that sounds like me. Oh, I want to try that. And we start to like micromanage our health with a million things.
Yes.
And I love that it's about like returning to the way your body was designed to function, like that R in true, right? Reconnect, rebalance is where it really all starts, guys. Like when we do that, we're no longer fighting our bodies, we're working with it. And that's really all our body wants. That's why it's sending out these signals. That's how intelligent it is,
Yes.
and just to go back on the tips that we could do, for myself, and like I always guide clients, start your day with rhythm. Wake up, hydrate. I tell clients, like, leave some warm water next to your bed so when you wake up, and you don't even have to make it, you could just drink it, add a little lemon if you can. Do some breathing is really good for the body. Eat within like 60 to 90 minutes of waking up, and like you said, like your fiber, your protein, fat, think savory for breakfast. Don't think the American standardized meal of bagels and pancakes and all that stuff, because it'll just not make us feel really well.
Yes.
And meal timing matters, right? You said it earlier, like every 4 to 5 hours, give your body structure, because that'll help stabilize and it'll help your body calm down and be like, oh, we know we're good.
Yeah.
Um, and movement after meals. I love movement after meals. I try, even if it's walking around my house. Like if I can't get outside, like maybe I'm squeezing in lunch in between clients, so I, don't have a large span. So I eat and then I'll just go do some squats for a few minutes or go walk around my kitchen, just something to get myself moving. And you do really feel better.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lorraine says, I'm working on it. The structure is such good advice. It's, you know what, Lorraine, it's true. If we can just, like Carissa just said, if we just focus on some of these basic fundamental things, they really do create large shifts, you know? So no matter where you are, even people who struggle with their diet, just starting to get your meals into a schedule is a really helpful place to be, right? And if you're confused about what to eat, that's another reason to start to just pay attention, just get into that rhythm, just move after you eat. Like you don't have to spend an hour at the gym. If you actually purposefully move, maybe you did 5 squats, for example, after every meal that you ate, you are going to start to see changes, right? This is the reality. And you don't have to do expensive things, you don't have to go crazy, but you really do need to get back into those patterns. Lorraine says the water before everything is really helping. Yeah. So waking up and having water first thing in the morning, it's important for your detox, right? It's important for
Mm-hmm.
your kidneys. It's important to flush everything out. Do be careful though. Lorraine, before, if you're doing water every time before you eat, just be careful with that. You don't want to over dilute your digestive uh, juice, digestive juice. So just pay attention to that, right, and moderate that. But Carissa, you kind of moved in a little bit to step number two. So let's go back, right? Step number one is balancing your blood sugar. Step number two is sleeping. Step number three is reducing your stress and calming your system. And yeah, we can reduce our stress, but like Carissa said, like breathing, uh, just kind of getting yourself present. I like the take deep breaths at the stop signs and traffic lights because it's always like a trigger. Oh, I'm stopped. Let me breathe, right? Or when you're brushing your teeth, like right after you brush your teeth, just close your eyes 1 more minute and just get present and breathe. So important. Having that schedule, walking after your meals. Guys, not over exercising. Please don't over exercise. We're actually working for all of you in our private Facebook community. We're doing some revamping of the workouts that we post every day, because all the workouts are already short, but you don't need to spend an hour at the gym to have an impact. You just need to be doing the right things in order to have that impact. And then this is an area sometimes where I even struggle, you guys, and that is with connection. And I don't mean like, yes, connection with our bodies, but also with connection of other people. I know sometimes I get like into this work mode and I'm like, holy crap, it's 8 o'clock and I've like been sitting in my office and in front of the computer, and that's not good, you guys. Connect with the people around you. Laugh a little every day. Spend time with people. Spend time in nature. Connect outside, right? Hug someone. My poor kids. I'm like, I need a hug. I need a hug. But those things are things that bring down our stress levels, right? You want to create, like Carissa said before, you want to create a space where your body feels safe, right? So that's number three. And then the last two, you guys, and we got like 1 minute here, so we might go a couple minutes over, but step number four is pay attention to the hormone disrupting things in your environment, right? The plastics, the pesticides. I know people are out there, spraying all the chemicals all over their lawn. Don't do that, right? Fake estrogens. There are so many things in our environment that we're using, right? So if you're using plastic food containers or water containers, get them out. Use glass, use stainless steel. You don't want to be taking those microplastics in. Eat organic as often as possible. Okay. You all know the environmental working group does the dirty dozen list to tell you what things you should absolutely make sure you are eating that are organic, especially berries. It's berry season. So berries are high on that list. Get rid of the food dyes, the seed oils, the artificial sweeteners in your foods, right? And those of you who are working with us, we always have you working with something like MediClay, which is binding to those things and shuttling them out of your body. But binders are really important. And even just fiber is an excellent binder. So we're back to eating our fruits and vegetables. So that's really important, you guys. And step number five, because I wanted to give you 5 steps, is what I've said already, is to reset your body's rhythm with your meals. So start to eat on a schedule, right? Eat within 60 to 90 minutes of waking up. 30 is okay too. but don't go much longer than that, right? Follow that regular rhythm. Give your body an expectation. Okay. And if you're fasting, I don't want you to fast, into the spot where it's late in the afternoon and then you're eating late at night. Fast earlier in the day, right? So and earlier. So, if you're doing a 10-hour window, have it be 8 to 6 as opposed to, something later on, or that's better. So an 8 to 6, for example, is better than like a 10 to 8. Okay. So you want to start eating earlier in the day. When you do this, you guys, when you get that routine and that rhythm, that the ghrelin over here, the gremlin is going to calm down. Okay. And then you're also going to start, your body will start to hear those hunger cues and the fullness cues more appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything?
No, I feel like you hit it spot on, but in my head, I keep thinking of all my clients that go, but I don't have time to do this.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I just want to speak to them because I know, those thoughts go through our head and then we feel overwhelmed. And you said it before too, like the smallest shifts done consistently, they reap the biggest changes, right? And, as busy women or busy men, we're usually not lacking effort. We're just pouring it into everyone else or everything else. However, when you make these small shifts, it actually makes that pouring a little bit easier
Yeah.
too. So I invite you to take the invitation to create those micro moments throughout your day that bring your body back into rhythm, because it really will help all other areas of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too, that it's kind of it's kind of the paradox, right? It's kind
Mm.
of the paradox. I was looking for the right word. It's kind of the paradox. It's like we say that we don't have time, but
Mm-hmm.
the truth is we actually will save time. Like think about it. If you're not like in the pantry staring at what am I going to eat because you're in a binge because your hormones are out of balance, think about how much time you're going to save. And so all that mental capacity, all that mental time, all that time kind of fighting with yourself, running back to the refrigerator or the pantry, like you will actually in the end save time rather than wasting time,
Yeah.
so to speak. So it's kind of it is the paradox. But at the end of the day, you want to think about working with your body instead of fighting it. So just we've gotten out of sync, you guys, with modern times.
Yeah.
We've disconnected to our body's natural rhythms, and we have all of these side effects as a result of it. I mean, the beautiful thing is your body is brilliant. It knows exactly what to do, when to do, why to do. Everything it's doing is to keep you in a healthy space, right? But when it's out of whack, we've got to respect it. We've got to bring it back. We've got to respect what's naturally normally there. Not reach for another magic pill or a medication or things like that, but to just tune in to the body's natural normal needs. So that's something that's really important. Yeah, Lorraine said writing out an eating schedule is really helpful for her. You two have said it so much that it finally registered. Sometimes we repeat ourselves, but the truth is, like, these things are all fundamental, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you can't do calculus before you've learned, I don't know, you can't do calculus before you've learned multiplication, but you can't do multiplication before you've learned how to add, but you can't learn how to add before you've understood what numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody wants to start up here with the calculus, but no one's paying attention to like what are numbers. And
Yeah.
that's getting back to basics, right? I could go on a whole soapbox and we could talk about biohacking and all that, which actually I think we've done a lunch and learn
We
live
did.
too
We
long
did.
on
But I
it.
love how you keep bringing it back to basics, because I feel like so, and there were a point in my life where I thought it too, like the hormones are the enemy, my body's the enemy.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it's not, right? And our nervous system is not broken, and our bodies are on our side. It
Yes.
just needs to be reminded that it's safe. And it's not about forcing change, guys. It's about returning to alignment. And that is just starting by listening, because when we stop fighting our biology and start reconnecting with it, that's when the real magic happens.
Mm-hmm. And you
Yeah.
guys, it's not like I don't sit here like I know these things, but it doesn't mean that I don't also have to focus on them. Of
Name.
course I do, because I'm a
Yes.
human being, right?
Yeah.
As human beings, we all have to walk this path. We all get out of balance. And we all have to be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, look at that. I'm out of balance. But the truth is, if we didn't know the difference, right? If we're always walking around with the out of balance sunglasses on, we never know what it takes to get in balance. And the good
Right.
thing is when you can bring your body into balance, you'll start to more easily and more quickly know when you're out of balance. And then
Mm-hmm.
you can make a choice. Do I keep it this way or do I need to come back into balance?
Yeah.
So, and for today, I want you to bring the leptin and the ghrelin back into balance. Okay. Because like Carissa said, your body's not working against you.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who are brand new to South Bay Wellness, if you've tried the diets, if you've pushed harder, if you've questioned your willpower, and there's something more going on, then reach out. Pay attention to your body signals. And if you want to go deeper, reach out, you guys. At any time, you can schedule in a discovery call for us. If what we believe that we can assist you with whatever's going on with your health, then we'll invite you into a wellness evaluation with either, with myself, right? But you may have a discovery call with either myself or Carissa, and we'll set up a plan that's actually going to work, that's going to get your body back into those rhythms. So with that, everyone, we're a few minutes here over on our lunch and learn, but we'll see you all next week.
Yep. See you next week. Bye.